Non-whites are lauded for having a culture. Usually what is meant by culture and demonstrated in the way the term is used, is that non-whites do not live as white people. Culture has become that thing which divides white people from the rest of the world. But what might be called white culture and what could be pointed to as being white culture, is frequently a global feature common to many or even all people groups. What whites developed as nations and as a race, has often become globalized. Thus, it is hard to point to anything that is singularly attached to the white race. If a non-white people did not invent ways of doing things adopted by the world, that life becomes a culture, because it is unique to them. A hollow tree turned into a drum, becomes a cultural artifact, because it is unique to a tribe, but if a drum design is mass-produced and sold globally, it is not part of the culture that invented and exported it, to the world. Whites do not have a culture in the sense other people do, because how whites live is far less specific to them. White culture does not belong to whites, in the way other cultures belong to other groups, because to a great extent white culture has become normalized and universalized. In the same sense, Indian food is not part of Indian culture in Britain because it has been adopted by the British as part of their culture. White culture is similar to statistical analysis. It tends to serve as the point of divergence or the standard to which everything else is compared. It seems a cultural factor has virtue in how much it diverges from what is found in white nations. When we look at Western nations, we find Norwegians do not eat the same food prepared in the same way as the French. Italians are different again. Each white nation has their own way of cooking, and their menus revolve around a different set of staples. Tomatoes do not play the same role in Canada as they do in Italy, for example. The architecture is different, in different white nations, so is the national dress. With the westernization of much of the world, many things have become more standardized. Much of what was part of a particular culture, has been lost to a global phenomenon called westernization. The West has become homogenized to some degree. American movies, for example, is the staple fare in theaters everywhere. What compares to a Western symphony orchestra? Who has the sculpture and paintings that are found in the West? Painting styles vary and many nations have their local masters, but the art and sculpture share many of the same techniques and styles. We are willing to adopt the best of what our neighbors offer. That is in fact part of what makes Western culture great and something unique. It is not that no one but white men developed anything or did not contribute to the overall advancement of man. But it is impossible to look at the development of music, painting, physics, chemistry, astronomy, exploration, warcraft or other area of human achievement, without seeing an astonishing preponderance of white males. If we ask what Indian or African culture is, we get a response like this generated by Grok. Indian culture is a rich, diverse tapestry shaped by thousands of years of history, geography, religion, and social evolution. It's not a monolith. India's 1.4 billion people, 28 states, and 8 union territories encompass countless languages, traditions, and ways of life. India is home to over 2,000 ethnic groups, 22 official languages, Hindi, Tamil, Bengali, etc., and hundreds of dialects. English is widely used too. This linguistic and ethnic variety fuels cultural richness. Major religions like Hinduism, 80% of the population, Islam, 14%, Christianity, Sikhism, Buddhism, and Jainism coexist, each influencing art, festivals, and values. Spirituality often emphasizes dharma, duty, karma, action/consequence, and moksha, liberation. Strong family ties and collectivism are central. Joint families are common, and respect for elders is a key value. Arranged marriages, while evolving, remain significant. Diwali, Hindu festival of lights, Eid, Holi, festival of colors, Christmas, and regional celebrations like Pongal or Baisakhi reflect India's vibrant calendar. Each involves unique rituals, food, and music. Food varies by region: spicy curries in the south, tandoori in the north, vegetarianism in Gujarat, and seafood in coastal areas. Staples include rice, lentils, and flatbreads like naan or roti. Spices like turmeric, cumin, and cardamom define the flavor. Classical dance forms, Bharatanatyam, Kathak, music, Carnatic, Hindustani, and literature, Vedas, Ramayana, modern works by Tagore or Rushdie, are integral. Bollywood films and regional cinema are global cultural exports. Traditional attire like saris, salwar kameez, dhotis, and kurtas varies by region, often vibrant and symbolic. Modern fashion blends with Western styles. Shaped by Indus Valley Civilization, 2500 BCE, Vedic traditions, Mughal rule, and British colonialism, 1858 to 1947. Post-independence, 1947, India embraced secularism and democracy, influencing its cultural identity. African culture is not a single entity but a vibrant mosaic of thousands of ethnic groups, languages, and traditions across 54 countries and a population of over 1.4 billion. Spanning deserts, rainforests, and savannas, Africa's cultural diversity is shaped by its history, geography, and interactions with the world. Africa is home to over 3,000 ethnic groups, from the Yoruba in Nigeria to the Zulu in South Africa and the Amhara in Ethiopia. Over 2,000 languages are spoken, including Swahili, Hausa, Amharic, and Arabic, alongside colonial languages like English, French, and Portuguese. Traditional African religions, centered on ancestor worship, nature spirits, and communal rituals, coexist with Islam, prevalent in North and West Africa, Christianity, dominant in Sub-Saharan Africa, and smaller faiths like Judaism or Rastafarianism. Syncretism often blends indigenous beliefs with global religions. Collectivism is key, with extended families and clans forming the social backbone. Respect for elders and communal decision-making are widespread. Kinship ties often extend beyond biology to community networks. Oral histories preserve cultural knowledge, myths, and values. Proverbs, folktales, and epic poems, like the Epic of Sundiata in Mali, are central to identity. Music is a cultural cornerstone, from the polyrhythms of West African gem drums to South African isikathemia singing. Dance, often communal, accompanies rites of passage, harvests, or celebrations. Modern genres like Afrobeats have global reach. African art ranges from ancient rock paintings in the Sahara to Benin's bronze sculptures and Maasai beadwork. Masks, textiles, and carvings often carry spiritual or social significance. Food varies by region: West African jollof rice, East African ugali, North African couscous, or South African braai, barbecue. Staples include millet, sorghum, yams, and plantains, often paired with spicy stews or grilled meats. Traditional attire like the West African Kent cloth, East African kanga, or North African jalaba reflects regional identity. Bright colors and patterns often signify status or occasion, though urban areas embrace global fashion. Africa's cultural roots trace back to ancient civilizations like Great Zimbabwe, the Kingdom of Aksum, and the Mali Empire. Colonialism, 19th to 20th centuries, disrupted traditions but also sparked cultural resistance and fusion. Post-independence, African nations have reclaimed and redefined their identities. The transatlantic slave trade and diaspora spread African cultural elements, music, food, spirituality, to the Americas, influencing jazz, samba, and vodou. North Africa, heavily influenced by Arab and Islamic culture, with traditions like Moroccan Nawa music and Egyptian belly dancing. West Africa, known for vibrant markets, masquerades, and festivals like Nigeria's Durbar. Yoruba and Igbo cultures emphasize elaborate ceremonies. East Africa, Swahili culture blends African, Arab, and Indian influences. Maasai and Samburu pastoralist traditions emphasize livestock and warriorhood. Southern Africa, Zulu and Xhosa cultures feature clique languages and rituals like lobola, bride price. Urban South Africa mixes tradition with modernity. Central Africa, forest-dwelling groups like the Baka maintain unique musical and hunting traditions, while urban Kinshasa thrives on rumba music. But what is unique to Africa and India is unique because it is not transferable to other nations and peoples. Those who speak about culture have trouble ascribing things developed in England to England, because they have spread to the world, on account of its global influence. What is the Western costume, when the business suit has been adopted worldwide? What is Western entertainment when everyone watches Western entertainment and listens to Western music? The term European culture is tricky, says Grok, because Europe is a continent of 44 countries, over 700 million people, and countless ethnic groups, languages, and traditions. There's no European culture because Europe is diverse. Identity is shaped by national, regional, and historical contexts, not just race. Europe includes ethnic groups like Germans, Italians, Poles, Irish, and Swedes, speaking over 200 languages, including Germanic, English, German, Romance, French, Spanish, and Slavic, Polish, Russian, families. Regional dialects, like Bavarian or Sicilian, add further variety. Christianity, Catholicism, Protestantism, Orthodoxy, has historically dominated Europe, shaping art, holidays, and ethics. Humanism and Enlightenment ideals like individualism and rationalism are cultural cornerstones. Nuclear families are common, with increasing emphasis on individualism. However, Southern Europe, e.g., Italy, Spain, often retain stronger extended family ties. Social welfare systems in countries like Denmark or Sweden reflect collectivist values. Christmas, Easter, and national holidays like France's Bastille Day or Germany's Oktoberfest are widely celebrated. Folk traditions, like Ireland's St. Patrick's Day or Spain's La Tomatina, vary by region. Seasonal fairs and carnivals, e.g., Venice's Carnevale, are common. European food is diverse: Italian pasta, French cheeses, German sausages, Spanish tapas, or British fish and chips. Shared traits include bread-based diets, wine and beer cultures, and seasonal ingredients. Mediterranean diets emphasize olive oil and vegetables, while Northern Europe leans toward hearty meats and potatoes. Europe's cultural output is vast, from Renaissance art, Michelangelo, Da Vinci, to classical music, Bach, Beethoven, and literature, Shakespeare, Dante, Tolstoy. Modern contributions include cinema, French New Wave, and design, Scandinavian minimalism. Indeed, it would take a library of books to properly cover the art, literature, and music of the West. Traditional attire, like Bavarian lederhosen or Scottish kilts, is now mostly ceremonial. Urban Europe favors globalized fashion, jeans, suits, but regional styles, like French haute couture, persist. Europe's culture was shaped by Greek and Roman civilizations, the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and the Enlightenment. Colonialism, 16th to 20th centuries, spread European languages and customs globally but also introduced cultural exchanges, e.g., tea in Britain from Asia. One of the difficulties of pinning down what the culture of the West looks like, is that culture in the West has evolved in many different places. The culture of modern Britain is not the culture of Britain in the 60s nor the culture of Britain in the Elizabethan age. Many nations in Europe do not have a distinct culture in the sense their cultures are composed of distinct periods, each with their own divergent cultural elements. The 20th century's wars, the EU's formation, and immigration have fostered both unity and tension, with multiculturalism reshaping urban centers like London or Berlin. Countries like France, Germany, and the UK emphasize individualism, innovation, and secularism. Culture changes as new innovative expressions emerge. Cultural exports include fashion, Paris, and philosophy, German existentialism, both created by individual innovators. Italy, Spain, and Greece prioritize family, religion, and leisurely lifestyles. Mediterranean culture emphasizes communal meals and vibrant public spaces. Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Norway, value egalitarianism, sustainability, and minimalism, seen in design and social policies. Poland, Hungary, and others blend Slavic traditions with post-communist identities, often emphasizing national pride and religious heritage. European culture is diverse, but it's more fragmented by national boundaries and historical events. There is far less or no tribal identities. Religion also plays a less dominant role today in Europe, compared to India, parts of Africa or even to its own past. Culture in Europe is closely tied to nationalism. Whereas in Asia and Africa culture is mostly linked to race and tribal identity. Yet, things change. Both India and Africa urban areas often embrace global fashion and the conventions of Western dress. Still, dress more often reflect the climate and available materials. The point is, a Nigerian does not lose their identity by dressing in Western garb and speaking English. An English person does not cease being English because they eat curry. Culture is a way we express both our humanity and our group identity. Mostly we have tried to describe our culture by listing incidentals. But it is easy to see none of the listed items are actually vital to our humanity. Culture is the collective expression of how a people live, think, create, and relate to their world and one another. It is not merely a catalogue of customs, languages, foods, or artistic works. These are the manifestation of culture, not the elements. Culture weaves together the inherited traditions, shared stories, symbols, rituals, and moral codes that guide daily life, by giving the elements of life a common meaning. Culture is dynamic, adapting and evolves with each generation, while still maintaining a core identity. The British remained British through many different eras. At its deepest level, culture reflects the questions a society asks about its existence and purpose. Whether in grand monuments or everyday gestures, culture articulates a vision of what matters and what is possible for a people. Culture in many ways is the persona of the individual of that group. However, we have been distracted by the many ways culture is manifested, and so we have not considered what all of these manifestations might have in common. Culture is the why people live as they do more than the how they live. To truly understand culture and how it comes about, we have to set aside the nuances created by specific times and places. There is no way the Rome of 2000 years ago could have what the culture of Rome has today. But there is a thread that holds them together and indeed, holds ancient Rome and Greece together in a common identity with Britain and the rest of Europe. Culture does not arrive full-blown, nor is it given. Culture arises from a deep-seated factor. The fact that some places can said to have a culture is their lack of progress or change. There are in fact no cultures. What many call culture are simply lifestyles. There are no cultures, there is only culture, and culture is a specific way of life that adds value to the world. One can call life patterns of various economics, religions, and politics cultures, but at best they are emerging cultures. Culture is manifested in the amount of value in a locality. Culture is aligned with progress and with civilization. People who live in subsistence economies do not have culture because they do not have a history of adding value to the place in which they live. Whites are often said to not have culture because what they have has to a large degree been adopted globally, but that is the point, that is culture. It is the globalization of English that makes it culture. Culture is the system in which we live. If Europe has conquered and colonized the world, then it is the dominant culture. It is just the way we live, and if the way we live is not right in an objective sense, it is not justified to call it culture. That is, culture is something which we all ought to aspire to, because in the fulfillment of culture we manifest ourselves and all we can be, in the fullest sense of the world. Culture is the essence of mankind given expression in our works of faith. Culture can be one of two things: it can be an expression of a specific tribal identity, or it can express a more comprehensive human identity. Whites do have a culture, but it has become homogenized by its globalization. Yet there is a core ingredient to how we live. Whites live in faith, we live in the expectation others like them are aligned with their desire and intent to build something lasting. Whites want to leave something behind, they want to make their mark on the world in a way that will be eternal. The culture of whites is in its universality. Whites' culture is absolutist because it outlasts parochial forms, and spreads beyond our borders. White culture is absolutist and universal, that is the thing. White culture is really universal culture. We do not keep it as our own. We create something we can share and which all can partake of, which many do to their benefit. There is a white culture, but it is universal. We have adopted a life suitable for everyone.